Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lost in the Real. This is your host, Shawn, and today we're doing something so exciting. We are talking about my top 10 films of 2020. It has been such a crazy year, but there has been so many incredible films, and I cannot wait to share with you my very favorite. Let's do it. So even though movie theaters aren't open to the general public right now, there has been so many hidden gems and mini masterpieces that have come out in 2020. I've had so many friends tell me there's been no good movies this year because of COVID. I'm sorry, my friends, you are mistaken. You're just not looking in the right places. So I'm going to share with you my top 10 films of 2020. But before I do that, I am going to share with you a couple of honorable mentions just because there's been that many good films. Starting off with my honorable mentions, I'm going to be talking about Amazon Prime's Uncle Frank. Me and Devin did a review of this film a couple of weeks back, and I had such a hard time not putting it in my top 10 just because I absolutely love this film. It's written and directed by Alan Ball, who gave us 6 Feet Under and True Blood, and a lot of it is very autobiographical for him. It's about a man who is coming out to his very conservative family in the South, and his niece who follows him and helps him along the way. This movie rang true in so many ways for me. I found it powerful and heartbreaking, and it has a wonderful performance by Paul Bettany. The next movie that I couldn't leave off this list is going to be a hidden gem called 1BR. This little indie horror film is about a cult that is in Los Angeles in this little apartment complex. I was shocked at how much I love this movie. It is so tense. There's scenes of very, very scary violence, but also this psychological terror that's happening with this girl who's slowly getting sucked into this cult and her trying to claw her way back out into the free world. I found this film to be gripping from beginning to end. Also on this honorable mention list is going to be French Exit. I was able to see this at the New York Film Festival. It stars Michelle Pfeiffer and Lucas Hedges as a mother and son who leave their New York life behind and move to Paris. And this is just such a quirky, oddball story. It didn't work for a lot of people, but Michelle Pfeiffer is a fiery, bitchy diva, and I was all for her performance. And just all of these different characters that come in. It's a comedy of errors, and it's just so funny. I absolutely loved it, and I can't wait to rewatch it again when it comes out next year. And last but not least, on my honorable mentions is going to be Netflix's Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. This film was so hard to leave off of my top 10. I had a really hard time with it, but I mean, like I said, there's been too many good movies this year. This film stars Chadwick Boseman and Viola Davis, and it's based on August Wilson's play. This movie was so powerful, and these performances are out of this world. I mean, both of them are going to be nominated for Oscars, and deservedly so. This is must-watch filmmaking, and I really hope more people check this one out. And now it's time for my top 10. Starting off with my number 10 is going to be Netflix's Korean horror thriller, The Call. This movie completely blew me out of the water. I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I started it, but boy did I love it. This movie deals with time, which can get really messy, but the movie does a really good job of really setting up its rules extremely quickly, so then you can just throw yourself into the insanity. The 2 lead performances in this movie are outstanding. One of them is probably the best villain of any movie this year. She is downright horrifying and sadistic, and I just had no idea what was going to happen. At every second of the movie, I was on the edge of my seat the whole entire time because it kept throwing me for another loop, and it's just so riveting because of how unpredictable this film is. And I know a lot of people had some issues with the ending. I don't think it's the perfect ending, but I was absolutely satisfied, and I found myself searching for answers afterwards, which is always a good sign. So please check this one out. If you're a fan of the horror or thriller genre, you will love it. And number 9 is Love and Monsters, starring Dylan O'Brien. I was not expecting to love this movie as much as I did when I first started it. I mean, even just because of the title, it's kind of cheesy, but boy did I fall in love with this movie. Dylan O'Brien is such a good leading man because he's not your typical leading man. He is charismatic and believable and so watchable, and also just extremely funny. He made me crack up throughout the whole entire film. This is at its core a boy and his dog epic adventure, and honestly that is the perfect film for me. You have sci-fi monsters and, you know, apocalyptic survival, and it's all so much fun, and it has a lot of heart. And unlike the title would suggest, you know, it's not schmaltzy or in your face sentimental. It does a really good job of, you know, getting you right here, but not in a way that you would expect. So don't go see that Monster Hunter movie that's in theaters right now. Just watch Love and Monsters at home. You'll thank me later. And my number 8 film is going to be Apple TV Plus's Wolfwalkers. This movie is from the animation studio who brought us The Secret of Kells and Song of the Sea, and holy crap is it beautiful. You cannot take your eyes off of this film. The use of traditional animation and different animation styles is so intricate. It's like a painting, the whole entire movie. But this film isn't just style. There's also so much substance. It's a powerful film about a young woman who is fighting for what she believes in, and also her relationship with her father, who doesn't believe in what she does. It is such a moving piece and one of the best animated films to come out in a very long time. And my number 7 is Sound of Metal. This film stars Riz Ahmed as a musician who is slowly losing his hearing and begrudgingly tries to assimilate into the deaf world. This movie's use of sound was insane because it really puts the viewer in our lead character's shoes, and it's really frightening, to be completely honest, because you are hearing the sounds that this character is hearing, and it just feels like you are going on this journey with him, and you're also kind of losing your hearing at the same time. And this wouldn't be as effective without a performer leading the way, and Riz Ahmed gives the best performance of the year, in my opinion, along with the likes of Chadwick Boseman and Viola Davis and Ma Rainey. But this performance is a masterclass. You feel for this character, you get frustrated with this character and angry, but your heart is with him and you want to see him be happy. And Riz Ahmed just, I mean, the best actor race is, there's so many great performances this year, but in my opinion, he's the one that deserves the statue. And my number 6 is Let Him Go, starring Diane Lane and Kevin Costner. And boy, is it so good to see these two in a film together again after the DCEU. They have such a palpable chemistry that is undeniable, and they are really showing off their acting chops here. This film is about a couple who unfortunately lose their son in a horrible accident, and his wife ends up remarrying and ends up disappearing with their grandson. So they go on a road trip to find their grandson and steal him away from the clutches of this evil family. This is a very slow burn thriller that starts off with its first half being very much so character development. You're getting to know this couple and what makes them tick. And then you'll know it when it happens. This film starts amping up and escalating to a fantastic finale that will literally take your breath away. This movie was so well paced and stirring, and I could not stop thinking about it after I saw it. And even months after, I still think about it and just I smile because it's that good. And my number 5 is Netflix's The Platform. This movie came out at the beginning of the year to a lot of fanfare, and it was very popular in the Netflix top 10, but for some reason I just wasn't too interested in it because it kind of looked like a Cube rehash, but boy was I wrong. This movie is all about a vertical prison where at the very top there's a platform with a feast on it. It slowly starts moving down the prison and the food slowly starts being eaten. Once it starts getting to the bottom, though, all of the food is gone, and the prisoners at the bottom end up having to cannibalize to survive. And they slowly start moving around to different cells every month, and a uprising begins. This movie is insane. It is gruesome. It is nasty. It is violent. It is all of those words and more. I honestly haven't been this unsettled since the first time I saw Saw. It is that depraved. But it's not just about that gruesome horror. It's also a critique on society as a whole. It's a critique on communism, on capitalism, on socialism, and why all these social constructs don't work because of our human nature. It is a fascinating and captivating thriller that I will definitely be rewatching over and over again in the years to come. And my number 4 is going to be The Painter and the Thief. I am so excited to have a documentary on my top 10 films this year. I am such a huge documentary film lover, and I do watch a lot of them, but they always end up on the peripherals of my top 10. Not this year, because The Painter and the Thief is sensational. The movie is about a young artist whose paintings get stolen, and she goes on a quest to track down the culprit of this terrible act. What she doesn't expect is that she's going to end up forging a friendship with this man, learning about his past and finding compassion for him. This is a very interesting movie because it starts off as one thing and turns into something completely different. What it does turn into is a lesson in empathy and compassion, which is something that I think a lot of people need to have a lesson on nowadays. It is really a powerful piece of work and a fascinating, fascinating story about a very odd friendship. And number 3 is going to be Baby Teeth. This movie is something special, guys. It really is. It's about a young girl who has terminal cancer who falls in love with a young man who's a little bit older than her. He's also a troublemaker, a drug dealer, and pretty much up to no good. How many times have we seen that movie recently? Way too many times if you ask me. But Baby Teeth does this story so much justice, and it feels so different than all of those other movies. It doesn't slap its audience around, or its characters for that matter, with obvious cliches. It really has a cast of characters that are so fully realized, who are flawed, who are frustrating, but also who you fall in love with slowly by surely. And these performances are so outstanding. We have Essie Davis from The Babadook, Eliza Scanlon from Sharp Objects and Little Women, Ben Mendelsohn from pretty much everything. And then we also have Toby Wallace, who plays Moses. And he could have played this part so unlikable because the character is pretty much written that way, but he injects so much heart and soul into the character, and you can tell when you look into his eyes that he cares so deeply about Eliza Scanlon. And at the end, rather than copping out and being sappy and overly sentimental, it does so much justice to all of its characters by telling it how it is and how things are going to be after the event happens, and you know it's going to happen. But it's the journey that is the most important about Baby Teeth, and it is absolutely a journey worth taking, and one that you will definitely shed a tear over. It's a near masterpiece. And next up is my number 2, and this one was so hard because I kept moving my number 2 and my number 1 back and forth. I just couldn't make up my mind. finally watched my number one again. It cemented itself as my favorite film of the year, but nonetheless, number two is a masterpiece, and it is Pixar's Soul. I just reviewed this movie a couple of days ago, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but this film is truly firing on all cylinders. The story, the voice work, the beautiful animation. It really is just a life affirming movie. And when it ends, you just feel so full of life and joy, and you just want to get up and do something with yourself. This is Pixar at its finest, and I think it is one of their best films. And my number one favorite film of 2020 is Palm Springs. I have not stopped thinking about this movie since I saw it back in July, and I was thinking, while I was watching it for the third time, what truly makes my favorite films of all time? And I thought, it definitely needs great performances and a set of characters who have wonderful chemistry together who you relate to. It also needs to be laugh out loud hilarious, whether it be situational comedy, hijinks, or just comedy that really rings true. It also needs to be powerful and heartfelt, and if you cry in there, that adds a little bit of gusto to it as well. And then it needs to be creative. It needs to be unlike anything you've seen before. And Palm Springs is all of those things and more. This is my favorite film of the year. It's definitely in my all-time favorite films, and it is a movie that I cannot wait to return to over and over and over again for the rest of my life. It is really that good. If you haven't seen it, stop what you're doing immediately and watch it on Hulu. You will not be sorry, because thank you so much, guys, for watching Lost in the Reel. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you liked it. And also comment down below. Let us know what your favorite films of 2020 are. We can't wait to hear your thoughts and your choices and to be able to talk about them. And as always, please take care, and we will see you next time.